The task force constituted by the Punjab government has submitted its recommendations for an exit strategy from the nationwide lockdown. The task force says it is in agreement with the considerable relaxations recommended by the centre so far and hopes that states will get greater autonomy to restart various sectors going forward. However, the exit plan submitted recommends amendments to the centre's guidelines just in case the lockdown is extended beyond the 3rd of May. These recommendations, it says, will help accelerate the revival of the labour market and reboot the stagnant industrial economy if implemented from the 15th of May. The report warns that the initial days of the lockdown saw Punjab losing between 1,200 and 1,700 crore rupees per day, and the state is on track to witness its first economic contraction in 40 years. Some of the key recommendations of the exit plan include allowing the operation of industrial and commercial units located in urban areas. Containment zones, of course, will remain off limits. The plan says that this relaxation be given to all categories of industries to ensure that the manufacturing chain, especially of MSMEs, is not broken. The report also contains a series of areas where the state would engage with the centre for relief. These include asking for an extension of the period during which GST compensation is payable to states by centre till such time GST revenues stabilise. It's also said that the state must ask the Pay Commission to keep in mind that Punjab pays 25% more to its employees and the centre when it draws up its next recommendations. An immediate hike to the state's borrowing limit to at least 4% for this fiscal and the next, and a freeze in wages and dearness allowance for state government employees for the current year are also part of the recommendations. Interestingly, one of the recommendations is that any organisation that has paid wages during the lockdown be compensated through enhanced working capital limits. From Punjab to Goa, 7 coronavirus patients and all 7 have now recovered. The state has declared itself free of COVID-19. Joining us is the Chief Minister of Goa, Mr. Sawant. Thanks very much, as always, for joining us on CNBC-TV18. Good to have you back. You have said that the state of Goa is now COVID-free, sir, and you've made that claim for more than a week now. Can you help us understand how many tests has the state carried out so far, and what is the strategy to ensure that you continue to contain the spread of the virus?
Thank you. From the 3rd of April से आज तक एक भी पॉजिटिव केस फिर से हमें नहीं मिली है. From the last we have got only the 7 cases positive. We have converted them into the negative, and now the state has the 0 case of the corona. Altogether we have completed approximately 1,700 cases till now, with a population of 15 lakhs in the state. It is a good ratio actually comparison with the other state. We did the survey, we have completed the survey, we have shortlisted approximately around 4,000 of the 4,000 to 5,000 cases, and we will complete all the cases, those who are having the travel history, those who are having the SARI, ILL symptoms, we will complete their test.
So, Mr. Sawant, you're saying that 4,000 to 5,000 people have been identified based on their travel history, based on any symptoms that they might be showing. But so far, the state of Goa, the entire state of Goa, has only tested 1,700 people?
Yes, we had completed the 1,700 patients. But the one thing, those who are come the positive, the patient for the first contact and second contact, all those we have already tested them and they had come the negative. These patients, they are already, we did the survey whole over the state, and for in that survey we have got some patient like the SARI or ILL symptoms. Those only we have shortlisted, but we have surely, we know that they are not directly in contact with the positive patients.
Okay, 7 patients that were confirmed COVID cases now being discharged. But, you know, again, I point to the fact that this is an international tourist hub, Mr. Sawant. So it's a little hard to imagine that you would have been able to identify only 4,000 to 5,000 people across the state of Goa who may have had any contact with those who have travelled themselves or have been in contact with people who may have travelled.
From the 22nd of the March, the Janta curfew had started. From that onward, we had started our lockdown. And from then, we had those who are having the travel history or those who are traveled from the out of the state, we did the home quarantine for them and the institutional quarantine.
Okay.
Because of that, it is possible for us to control over the contacts of for the more people.
Okay. Mr. Sawant, let me ask you now that the state is COVID-free. So I would imagine that you're a fit case to remove the lockdown conditions, the lockdown restrictions. Now, what is the plan going forward? Come the 3rd of May, what should we expect from the state of Goa?
We have recommended the lockdown should be the continue for after the 3rd of May also.
Why, sir?
Because
You're COVID-free. Why would you want the lockdown to continue?
Nearby state is the Maharashtra and Karnataka. In both the Mumbai and Belgaum, the day-by-day cases are increasing, and it is very much risky for us if we are not continuing the lockdown. If we allow the people to come from the border, then they might be again the positive patient will come from the either from the Maharashtra, Kerala, Karnataka, from their state to the our state. That's why we are asking the lockdown should continue for the another 15 to 20 days as the center suggests. It depends upon the central government. It depends upon the Honorable Prime Minister. As they continue the lockdown, we are with the center. Whatever the guideline given by the center will follow that. But at the same time, we are continuing the economical activity in our state as per the guideline, central guideline.
Okay, what has been the status as far as resuming economic activity is concerned? We've seen from the 20th, the centre has allowed further relaxation. Now, according to the MHA notification, even shops and establishments within states can open. So what is Goa going to do about being able to ensure that economic activity resumes, especially since you're COVID-free?
At present, from the last guideline given by the MHA, almost the 80% of the economical activity had started with the 80% of the manpower within the state. We have not allowed to take the manpower from the out of the state, either by the nearby state from the Karnataka or the Maharashtra.
Okay, so, you know, the last conversation we had, you said that pharmaceutical companies, liquor manufacturing, all of those activities would start. Have they started? What is the current production capacity?
Not the liquor manufacturing. Liquor manufacturing industries at present, they are manufacturing the sanitizer, not the liquor. And the pharmaceutical company had started in the full-fledged with the 80% of the capacity. They had started in the first phase also. Goa is the first state and who had pushed this pharmaceutical industry to start their activity.
You have no intention, if the centre were to allow relaxations, there is prohibition on sale of liquor. I don't know if there is any specific prohibition on manufacturing liquor, but would the state of Goa, if the flexibility was given, allow manufacturing of liquor? And what about shops as well? Opening up of shops, not liquor shops, but shops in general. Have you started to do that since the MHA notification?
According to the MHA notification, the rest all the shops we have started, which were given in the guideline. But till now, the central guideline is not allowing us for the open for the liquor industry. So we are waiting for the permissions.
Okay. What about, again, I go back to the last conversation, sir, because you very categorically told me on my show that the state of Goa would not encourage any tourist-related activity till almost the end of the year. Then there was a tweet that was put out by, some government handle suggesting that that was not the case. So what is the case when it comes to tourism in the state of Goa?
I'm telling you on the this lockdown is continuing till the 3rd, and after the 3rd, what the center is taking the decision, it depends upon that. We always says the Atithi Devo Bhava. We welcome for the tourist, but at present, the present stage of the COVID in the state and in the nationwide, we need to control the first, and what the guideline is following from the center, that guideline will follow for the tourism industry also.
Okay, has there been an assessment of job loss across the state, sir, on account of the COVID crisis and the lockdown? What is the state going to do to alleviate the pain?
We have already started for the assessment. We had already presented for the Economic Revival Committee. On the suggestions of the Economic Revival Committee, whatever the measures we need to take, that we will take in the state.
What are the likely measures that you are going to take, sir? And is there some estimate of the kind of revenue impact that the state has seen? Because, tourism has been impacted, manufacturing has been impacted, mining, of course, continues to be stalled, which has been the case for a very long time. But what has been the hit so far as revenue is concerned?
Yes, we know that the tourism industry has impacted our economy. But now we have already, whatever the possible in the mining industry, we have started within the purview of the state. And we have written for the central government also, whatever give us the permission. whatever the legislative amendment should be done for the mining purpose, we have recommended, we have given a letter to the Honorable Prime Minister also, Mines Minister and Home Minister also. We are hoping so if they give some relaxation in the mining, and that will be the boost of the economy in the state of Goa.
But how much have you lost on account of the collapse of the tourism industry? And again, I go back to there must be some assessment of the job loss on account of that.
Yeah, I can't tell you the exactly what will be, what is in figures, but definitely it is a huge loss for the state in the tourism industry and also in the major in the job sectors.
Okay, so would you recommend starting of some degree of interstate travel? You said that you want the nationwide lockdown to continue so that people cannot enter from Karnataka and adjoining states. But what about things like air traffic? You know, would you recommend a resumption of at least select services?
The nationwide lockdown should be the continue. I'm not recommending for the statewide transport for the train, plane, and by the roadways also. I'm not recommending it till some more days. We need to continue as it is.
All right, that is the Chief Minister of Goa saying that the recommendation of the state is that the nationwide lockdown should continue for at least another 15 to 20 days because the state of Goa feels that it is risky to open up the borders. They fear that people may come in from Maharashtra and Karnataka. So nationwide lockdown should continue, says a state that is today COVID-free. Thanks very much for joining us here on CNBC-TV18. We'll take a break, but when we return, how are exporters coping with the coronavirus crisis? That and more when we get back. India's dream of becoming an exporting economy has suffered a major blow with the lockdown in India as well as restrictions in other nations. Indian exporters are facing an unprecedented crisis. Exporters from different sectors say that about 30 to 50% of their orders have been cancelled due to the pandemic. The situation has worsened in April, with the sector expecting only 5 to 10% exports this month. Indian exporters are also facing challenges like the shortage of labour, insufficient liquidity and the lack of logistics. They fear if the situation continues, they will lose their clients to companies in China, Vietnam and Bangladesh which are operating at full capacity. So what can be done to alleviate the pain of exporters and bring manufacturing back on track? Joining me to take the discussion forward, Ravi Sehgal, Chairman of the Engineering Export Promotion Council of India, and Akhil Ahmed, Chairman of the Council for Leather Exports. Gentlemen, thanks very much for joining us here on the program. Mr. Ahmed, let me start by asking you, yesterday we had Mr. Saraf of FIO telling us that there has been large-scale cancellation of orders across the exporting sectors. Now, we are still awaiting clarity on what happens come the 3rd of May, but even from the 20th, there have been relaxations announced specifically for export-oriented units. Has that made any difference on the ground? What is the current state of play? What is the degree, the quantum of cancellation?
Thank you, Shereen. Actually, the effect has not been much because it's mostly on the rural area. The majority of the factories are located on the suburbs area and the municipality and the corporation level, because most of the unit, 92% of our industry is under the MSME segment, and therefore, actually, it has not really started production from the post on the 20th to 20th April onwards. And regarding the cancellation, cancellation is, yes, it's hurting us because already $1 billion has been cancelled. Starting unilateral cancellation was there since March 17, and it continues to cancel. But now we are receiving quite positive news from Spain and from Italy, from France, and also from America now, because market is opening there.
Okay, so you're saying that cancellations to the tune of $1 billion have already happened, at least as far as leather exports are concerned. But there is a silver lining now. Are you starting to see fresh inquiries, fresh orders coming in?
Yes, that's a good news, because we already started receiving at least 10% of the new orders now since 3 days back. And we are hoping that it will get recovery now, because basically Italy has opened today, and also the US within 1 or 2 days, it will be also open now. Yes, we are hoping that there will be some business coming through India, but we have to take this opportunity now.
But will you be able to take on these new orders? Since you mentioned that so far the relaxations announced on the 20th have not had much of an impact on the ground because most of the industrial units find themselves in urban centres. So will you be able to make use of the opportunity of these new orders coming your way?
So we are expecting on the 3rd that there will be exit of lockdown. So we are hoping that after the 3rd, and probably we would be able to start our factories, our production, because already the Indonesia and Vietnam's and also also China has started in full speed. And so if we do not start by then probably we lose the orders now further, because also the samples, this is the month for sampling. And if you don't do the samples on time, probably the next 6 months will be lost again.
Okay, I'll come back to you in just a second. Let me get a view from Ravi as well. Ravi, what is the situation on the ground when it comes to engineering exports? Do you echo what we've just heard there from Akhil Ahmed and the plight of the leather exporters? What are you seeing?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there are things which are improving, but too slow. Let's say that the government has done a wonderful job in at least letting the engineering sector and the other industries open up slowly. But then everything becomes a state issue. And some states are cooperating, other states are a little reluctant. And wherever in engineering units, you could have people working from 10 to about 1,000, and we have a lot of MSME members. And the problem is that the state governments are issuing very few permits at the moment, from 30 to 50 persons per factory. I mean, say no more than 10 to 15%. Whereas, the industry demands that at least 35 to 50% immediate permits should be given. The other problem on the ground level is how do we get the labor into the factory? There's no public transport. Most of them are used to travel by buses or trains, and that's how the system works. And now the government is saying, no, you arrange private vehicles. And when you go to the market to arrange private vehicles, where are the drivers? The drivers have either gone home or they don't want to venture out. And that is where the ground...
So
one more thing.
Labor is a big challenge. Yes, Ravi, go ahead.
Yeah, the logistics of labor is the main thing, but the other main thing is the cash flow. The industry was told that you pay 100% salaries to the employees. Most of them have done. And now they want us to pay for April, whereas where is the money? Either it's stuck in stocks or in consignments at various stages or in documents in the banks. A lot of things have, yet to do. So the money is stuck. And even if, the RBI has relaxed the norms, the banks are a little slow, but they are moving forward to give. But then how do you face the interest burden? So the government must come with a package.
So let me ask you this. We're still awaiting that government package. We are given to understand that something is in the works for MSMEs, a credit guarantee scheme, a special purpose vehicle. That is the story that we've done on CNBC TV18. But, at least as far as the EEPC is concerned, how many of your members may have already availed of the RBI moratorium, even though you believe that the interest burden is significant? But how many may have been forced to avail of the moratorium?
Let me tell you, instead of improving the cash flow, the exporters, and especially in the EPC sector, are facing bigger problem. It's like throwing salt on the wound. What's happening is actually for the forex bookings, whoever had the cancellations, they're having to pay penalties. For the delayed arrival of payments against the bills, they are paying, again, penalties and interest. So there is no such thing as outright help. And I've spoken to many members. Few are in pipeline, but nobody has physically gotten the additional limit. It's still on pipeline, and unless there is a moratorium and an interest waiver for at least, 6 months to, a certain time, it'll be very difficult to repay even that.
So let me ask you this, Ravi, before I go back to Mr. Ahmed. Liquidity is a problem. You've specified very clearly the issues that are being faced on cash flow. But if this lockdown extends itself in the fashion that we're currently seeing, I mean, with the relaxations that are already in place and the liquidity issues continue, will it be an issue of solvency as well?
Absolutely, because, I'm sure that the lockdown will not just open up for everyone overnight, and it's going to be staggered. And they've already made it clear all the red zones, containment areas, they're not going to open. And several industries are going to be affected in major states, whether it's Bengal or Gujarat or Maharashtra. I mean, I see a lot of, issues coming up in opening up. And then the burden of payment increases. The cash flow gets even worse. And this is the peak time in international market for engineering goods, I mean, between March and September is when most of the goods move all around the world. And even though the economies overseas are also affected, let me tell you, a majority part of the engineering goods goes into the utilities, the maintenance, the construction, many of which, like in US and Europe, all the utilities are declared as emergency services. So all the maintenance parts, everything is required. And if India is not there, the other countries are waiting to grab the opportunity. So India has a lot to lose if we don't really plan a structured and quick way of getting the engineering units started right away.
Yes, a quick exit is what you're advocating. But Mr. Ahmed, I want to go back to you now and to the point that was being made there in terms of cash flow issues, payment of salaries. How many jobs have been lost across the sector? And do you believe that the return of labor will be one of the big challenges for the leather export sector as well?
See, basically the leather and leather product industry, including the footwear, non-leather footwear, mostly are a structured business, and we all have regular employees, and there are migrant employees are much less in our business. And besides, the cost is approximately about 25 to 32% is our labor cost. So which is a big chunk of our business. And definitely because anyhow, during this lockdown period, there has not been any layoff or anything, and businesses stand still. So we will know only when we start the business. And it's the right time to start the business. And first of all, it's a great thing that India has contained this, because we are being seen as the best country in the world today, thanks to our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, because the least affected country is India today. If you see America today, more than 50,000 are dead there. And so compared to that, we are happy that this has control as of now. But going forward, we also have to look at the export segment, because export depends, has a choice. So they are not looking at India alone, because they have a lot of choices now, like Vietnam, like I mentioned, Indonesia. So they will not wait for another, a month. Probably as soon as possible, if government could help us, industry, to open up the industry with all the due respect and taking social conscious, and also the new norms which we have to live with it, and adoption of this systems probably we should be able to do, because I have seen some figures and I've seen some pictures in how the Vietnamese factories are working. They're not allowing the foreigners inside the company. The foreigners have to stay at home, or they are not there at all. So, but only the local people. Such conditions can be implemented and make strict measures, because it's also our moral responsibility to ensure that there is no more COVID cases coming into our country.
Sure. So an exit strategy that takes into consideration the need of the hour for industry to get back on its feet. That's the view coming in there from exporters across the country. Time is of the essence. There are other countries which have already restarted and are waiting to make most of this opportunity. Ravi Sehgal and Akhil Ahmed, thanks very much for joining us here on CNBC TV18 with your take on the need for an urgent exit strategy come the 3rd of May. With that, it is time for us to wrap up this special broadcast. Do stay tuned to CNBC TV18. There's a lot more coming up.